Welcome to Cultivated Live for 12/12, December 12th, 2024. I am Jay Rosenthal. I am the host of this program, which is called Cultivated Live. I'm also the co-founder of Cultivated Media. And since we launched just about a year ago, our goal at Cultivated has been to be cannabis industry first, providing you with the most important, insightful, useful, and timely information every single day. We do that through our daily newsletter, which is Cultivated Daily, which you can find at cultivated.news. We do that through this daily live stream, which is Cultivated Live. So follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to us on YouTube, get our newsletter in your inbox every single day at cultivated.news. Krista, I'm seeing you twice in 2 weeks, once in person in Las Vegas, once here online. How was your Las Vegas trip?
It was great. Also, I'm glad to hear that your voice is recovering.
It's recovering, not 100% there. It was bad when I saw you on Wednesday.
It was bad.
Yeah, it
I mean,
sounded
that
bad.
happens. It's so dry in the desert.
It's awful. It's dry here in Toronto. It's very dry there. And
Mhm.
we had like 40 podcasts. So it's a lot for a very limited amount of time. But thank you for the well wishes.
I think I gave you more of a hard time on Wednesday than maybe well wishes, but I'm glad to be here.
Also, I left my notebook out while you were there. And then I found notes from you in my notebook, um,
Yes.
which were not encouraging, but it was fun to see them as I was doing interviews.
Okay, great. Love that for you.
I've saved them and I'm going to frame them. So, and you were complaining we weren't going to even have a conversation there. We did. That podcast will come out later. But on this show today, on this Thursday after MJ Biz, I wanted to do 2 snippets of conversations I had that you have not seen yet and get
Okay.
your instant reaction as if we are like, I don't know, teenagers on Instagram or Chef Reactions. You know that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the cultivated version of Chef Reactions. Are you ready? I'll let you choose which one you want first. I have Josh Kesselman from Raw Rolling Papers,
Uh-huh.
and I have Lilach Mazor Powers from, The Giving Tree, but also Mazor Collective. Which one do you want first? I thought these were pretty good ones for you.
Lilac.
Lilac. Okay, here is Lilac.
It definitely changes. I think if you are not comfortable with pivoting, this is not your industry.
Oh,
Every 3 months, the market is really different, and you have to adjust if it's grow, or actually be more specific about being lean and very organized to then hire and grow, and then like, okay, well, now it's shrinking. So you have to be very comfortable with those challenges and those changes. I don't think it got easier, but it did get different. So in the 12 years that I've been in the industry, it started from like, let's learn what this means to operate in this market, to now a lot about, okay, so now we're seeing this race to the bottom, oversupply. Let's definitely adjust to being more about, discipline.
he's an
So,
operator in Arizona. I mean, they've been riding like a super interesting wave. I'm completely aligned with her in terms of thinking through that the business goes through shifts every 3 months, especially in markets that maybe are not limited license markets, or even in limited license markets if there's certain amount of saturation. But like, I guess I'm going to push it back to you. Maybe you have an opinion on this. Do you think that that is because functionally the industry actually really changes every 3 months, or that we're following a trend also of our customers as they go through the evolution of a year? Like January, February, March feels really different than September, October, and November.
I think it's both because I think the first January, February, March probably looks different than the second January, February, March that you've been in business,
Yes.
both from
Yeah.
a cultivation or processor or brand perspective, but also from a
Mhm.
retailer because you learn
Yeah.
more. But the second one, especially in like place like Arizona where they've been early, right? The Giving Tree, like it just changes. The industry changes, and so and you talk about this a lot. Your customers change, their competition changes, the
Yeah.
products change, the market changes, like all of it changes, and seasonally it changes every year. So it's both. And I think there is always in every new market there's exuberance, and we've talked about this a lot. Like there's exuberance, and you want to have like everything in store so customers have the ultimate choice, even though
Yeah.
customers don't know what they're choosing from. And so like understanding your customers, which that's a prelude to the next
Okay.
video as well. but it is like you understand your customers better month 4 than you did month 1, year 2, month 3 than you did month 3, year 1. Like everything, it's dynamic, right? It's 4-dimensional chess. And I think her key point was 12 years in, like she's seen it over 12 years. It continues to change. And you need to, and this is true in a lot of industries. You need to run lean and nimble enough to be able to respond to those changes, and not get so set in your ways that you know everything, because things do change all the time. And that was sort of her key takeaway, I think. Like, it's a challenging industry. It's more challenging if you are rigid.
Yeah, I mean, if we look outside of cannabis, I think that there's a lot of other businesses and industries, convenience, grocery, maybe like CPG products in places like Walgreens and CVS, that even in the last 10 years, how they've had to either adapt stores, adapt product assortment, adapt vendors, adapt pricing, adapt promotions to meet the customer where they are. Like, when I think and look at cannabis sales, I'm like, is this a feature of what product was available in the market today? Is it a feature of what was available in the stores, how our teams understand those products, how the customers understand those products? Or like, is there some kind of external economic / seasonal impact that is driving all of the above? And so it's not so easy just to say, like, I think maybe 3 years ago it's easy to say the business is going to change. We're going to see difference in pricing and maybe different types of products. Yes, but also, when do you test and iterate, and how do you know if you have tested and iterated enough to see whether there are gaps? Yeah,
it's hard. And I think she did well to talk about that, and she seems to be doing well in Arizona as well. So she's clearly seen it, done it, and always sort of nimble and ready to change. So that's one. The other, well, I think I've sort of hinted, it's about understanding your customers. Do you want to hear Josh Kesselman from Raw? He also has an awesome startup story, super compelling guy, and you will recognize him because he wears Raw stuff all the time. Here's Josh Kesselman. He's the founder of Raw Rolling Papers.
The dispos are concentrating too much on trying to look like an Apple store and not concentrating on
this
understanding
jacket.
You're here to serve the consumer.
So good.
What does the consumer need? Ask them. That's what my whole business based on. Ask the dude before you walk. Hey, wait, before you walk out the door, is there anything I should have had in my store that you? What are you going to? Now that you bought that from me, are you going to buy something that goes with that? That's somewhere else? Are you walking down the block to some other smoke shop to ask them for the thing that I don't carry? Why don't I carry that? Oh, you mean I could double my profits if I carried it? Really? Oh, that might make sense. Huh. Let me think about that for a second. Dude, if the dude is buying material from you, he needs a lighter. Come on, man. If he's buying liquid, he probably needs a vape. He probably needs a grinder. He probably needs papers. Come on. Just have it there for him as he's walking out the door. You'll freaking send your profits through the roof. They just have to understand the fundamentals of you're here to serve the consumer, figure out what their needs are all together, carry everything you can for that consumer. So when they walk out the door, they're happy, you're happy, everybody wins.
Well,
I mean, he's talking about this in context of accessories.
Yes.
But he has a very valid point. And one of the things that I've noted in the insights in the last kind of like 2 years is that it looks like most customers shop between 3 stores. And so if they're shopping between 3 stores, is it because they can't get all of the things that they're shopping for at your store? And like, when are you okay or not okay with that? Because there's going to be instances that makes sense. And when is it based off of convenience? And maybe there's another store that's more convenient based off of somewhere where the customer goes. But how could you make your offering or your relationship with the customer that they are willing to go a little bit out of their way? That's very difficult to do, but not impossible. Just like the simple insight of a team asking the customer on the way out, did you find everything? Like, did you get everything that you came in looking for today? Is such an easy way to start to collect qualitative feedback. And that is one thing I think in the last year, all of the operators that we've seen, and I would say culturally, where we are talking about data, I'm the number one person to be like, well, what's the data say? But if we aren't providing the context to that data, is it even useful?
Right.
Like, the data is not going to tell you where you had missed opportunities. It's only going to tell you what you had in store to sell. So finding missed opportunities is a qualitative effort, really, from my perspective. And there are other avenues than just having to ask somebody on the sales floor, but that's a very relevant step. I was in a store in California, and the team on the floor, like the person at the front desk, on the people on the way out, were like, "Did you find everything that you were looking for today?" Or like, "Hey man, like you usually get this. Did you get that today, or you get something else?" It's like, this is how you make an environment really impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, we've talked about it before, so I wasn't surprised to
Mhm.
hear it. It was interesting hearing it reinforced, obviously, by Josh Kesselman, or put forward by Josh Kesselman, because it's his business, and that's how he's made his business. Is that, like,
Yes.
if you don't carry these products, people are going to get them somewhere else, right? And not only will you, that's a missed opportunity, missed profit, all that, but also they're not, like, you're leaving the customer wanting more.
I'd like a retake of that video where he's like on stage yelling it.
I
Like,
think you'll get that, because this is his mantra, right? Like, maybe I'll just cut up a little GIF or GIF
yeah,
of
yeah,
him
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
like, I also like that he used the word "come on, man" and "dude" like several times in the course of less than a 1 minute clip. And certainly in the context of a 25-minute conversation, which I think we had with him, he used it way more. Also, pretty interesting startup story, interesting positioning in the market.
Mm.
And you've talked about it a lot, not necessarily with Raw, but rolling paper certainly, and others, is this accessory. And I always talk about it and think about it in when I'm in Marshalls. It's like their checkout line. It seems frustrating because it's relatively slow, but you're also surrounded by things that are like
Yeah.
impulse basket builders, right? Like, it's really unbelievable.
Even, I mean, like Walmart has co-opted the same strategy on the way to self-checkout
Yeah,
with
it
like
is
the way
interesting.
that they've run.
One grocery scenario, you're sometimes in Toronto, is Loblaw has shifted a lot of their checkout to self-checkout, and they have
Mhm.
not done as good as Walmart has in their self-checkout by surrounding you with things you might also put in your basket. It's more like you wait in the middle of an aisle, and then you're in the area where you check out, and there's not a lot of, like, opportunities for candy or tabloids or anything else in the checkout of Loblaw. Now that Loblaw, I'm gonna get banned from Loblaw, which means I won't be able to get groceries in Canada. But it is interesting sort of seeing how they all sort of think about this. And Josh is certainly a powerful advocate for filling that checkout with interesting things that consumers want.
Yeah, the interesting thing also, like not super relevant to cannabis all the time, but is that the theft with self-checkout is incredibly high.
Yeah.
And so there's also been this like strategic question about whether pushing people to self-checkout is helpful to the business overall. Although it might create some cost savings, like how quickly do those cost savings erode when we have loss?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe that's why they don't have stuff on the checkout, in the checkout line at Loblaw. That's an interesting consideration, certainly even in dispensaries as well,
Mhm,
with
mhm.
accessories. Maybe we'll do this a lot. We'll get some. I'll chop up
Reaction
videos, and we'll get
videos.
your reactions. We'll be chef reactions, or Krista and Jay reactions to videos that we do here on Cultivated. Krista, always good to connect with you on Thursdays. We may be done for the year potentially. Now that I look at
Okay.
the calendar, maybe not. Maybe we'll come back next week. But thank you for making time. Thank you for making time today. But thank you for making time in Las Vegas as well. Always good to see you. And thank you for your honest reactions to Josh Kesselman and Lilach Mazor Power.
Thanks, Jay. A pleasure to be here as always.
As always, we'll be back tomorrow, which is Friday, right here on Cultivated. Get our newsletter at cultivated.news. Follow us on LinkedIn. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Krista, thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Maybe.
Maybe.